You know, man, if I could make a video on just all the things that I did wrong during my 20s, that video would probably be hours and hours long, man. I think in your 20s, it's okay to take that leap of faith. It's okay to mess up. It's okay to transition and jump around career-wise because really you don't want to get stuck in that rat hole where you're just working this job and you're in the wrong field for years and years on end. It's okay to explore your options. One of the biggest mistakes that I made from a career standpoint, right, was just staying kind of in that same field. In college, I was a bio major, and one of the biggest mistakes that I made was definitely just staying kind of in that lab field of bio. Those first few years in my 20s, I spent so much time career-wise kind of in that same field, and I didn't really explore other options of what I could do with my degree until much later on, right? Especially with like my master's and doing my master's in biostatistics, and then just opening up different avenues for me instead of just staying focused on, doing work in a lab all the time. And really, I think, a lot of people, they get into these things where they go to undergrad, they graduate, then they do like a gap year before they pursue like a secondary education. I think the better option is not to delay it, just get into it as soon as possible, right? Get that master's as soon as possible if you're in that STEM field. It just opens up more opportunities. It opens up just a higher starting salary for you. Focusing on like your career earlier and just not being so distracted by all the other things going on in your life from a social and dating aspect as well, right? Financially, saving that money, working on your finances, right? Not blowing it off on, trips and vacations. And the thing is, man, when you turn 21, especially in America and Western culture, you're going to be influenced by all this like rah-rah going around you and social media. So I don't blame a lot of people necessarily in their younger 20s when they get so distracted, right? But trust me, man, as a 30-year-old guy who started his self-improvement journey a little bit later when I was, 26, 27, if I could go back, man, I would definitely hold myself more accountable early on rather than later, not chasing dopamine, right? From like a dating standpoint, I think your early and mid-20s should be spent really just building yourself up as a man, building yourself up to become that man that women want, right? When you're in your 20s, you're so young, you chasing those girls at the bars and the clubs, it's not really going to do anything beneficial for you, right? You haven't become that man yet. And a lot of people, again, they're just chasing women, focusing on dating, focusing on the wrong things. I'm not saying that you can't go out and date at all. I'm not saying that, but delayed gratification is huge. Building yourself up earlier rather than later, holding yourself accountable earlier from a self-improvement standpoint rather than later, it's huge. Trust me, man, the type of woman that you'll potentially attract if you've built yourself up from a self-improvement standpoint, right? The type of woman that you'll attract when you're 28 as opposed to 22 is much, much greater, right? Especially since you've built yourself up as a man, And then from the entrepreneurship standpoint, right? Doing that side hustle, betting on yourself, taking that risk. I started this YouTube journey pretty damn late, right? At age 29. If there's one thing I could do differently, it would be starting YouTube earlier at 21, 22. Betting on myself, taking that risk, right? Just imagine where this channel could potentially be right now if I had started YouTube 5, 6, 7 years ago, right? So there's definitely a lot of things that I messed up on that I would do differently if I could go back into my early 20s, man. I was so scared what other people would think. I was so scared what my friends would think if they discovered the channel. I was so scared what relatives would think. And at the end of the day, man, you learn, especially as you get older, that nobody really cares, Maybe they'll give you shit for a couple years, right? But eventually things level off. From a social standpoint, your friends are going to go different places. You're going to get different friendship circles as you grow up. You're not going to be seeing the same people all the time. Your social circles are going to change tremendously throughout your 20s, right? The same people that you hung out with in college aren't going to be the same people that you hang out with when you're 27, 28, 29. Start that self-improvement journey earlier rather than later. Start that side hustle earlier rather than later, man. If you're thinking about going to grad school, go sooner rather than later. You'll always be able to pay off, those loans, right? When you get your job, okay? Stop chasing that dopamine and start setting yourself up for success early on, bro. This self-improvement stuff, leveling up, I found all this shit on later on in life at age 26, 27. So if I could go back, man, definitely would start things a lot sooner. So that way you could experience, the fruits of your labor earlier rather than, your 30s. And that's kind of the reason a lot of people talk about how the 30s are your prime, because they start realizing that they need to get their shit together in their later 20s rather than early 20s, man. Just imagine, you start self-improvement when you're 19 or 20, right? Working on, your future goals, your career, right? Earlier rather than later. Just imagine where you'd be by the time you're 25 and 26 as opposed to, when you're 30, 31, man. So that's just my 2 cents. Things I would have done differently in my 20s, man. Hopefully this video helped. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Peace.